The fleur-de-lis, a flower-de-luce, is a stylized lily or iris that is used as a decorative designer symbol. It may be at one and the same time religious, political, dynastic, artistic, emblematic, and symbolic, especially in French heraldry. The fleur-de-lis is represented in Unicode at U+269C in the Miscellaneous Symbols block. Usages. While the fleur-de-lis has appeared on countless European coats of arms and flags over the centuries, it is particularly associated with the French monarchy in a historical context, and continues to appear in the arms of the King of Spain and the Grand Duke of Luxembourg and members of the House of Bourbon. It remains an enduring symbol of France that appears on French postage stamps, although it has never been adopted officially by any of the French republics. According to French historian Georges W., the three petals represent the medieval social classes: those who worked, those who fought, and those who prayed. In France it is widely used in city emblems like in the coat of arms of the city of Lille, Saint-Denis, Brest, Clermont-Ferrand, Boulogne, Billancourt and Calais. Some cities that had been particularly faithful to the crown were awarded an heraldic augmentation of 2 or 3 fleurs-de-lis on the chief of the coat of arms. Such cities include Paris, Lyon, Toulouse, Bordeaux, Reims, Le Havre, Angers, Le Mans, Aix-en-Provence, Tours, Limoges, Amiens, Orléans, Rouen, Argenteuil, Poitiers, Chartres and Laon, among others. The fleur-de-lis was the symbol of Ile-de-France, the core of the French kingdom. It appeared on the coat of arms of other historical provinces of France, like Burgundy, Anjou, Picardy, Berry, Orléans, Bourbonnais, Maine, Touraine, Artois, Dauphiné, Saint-Ouen and the county of La Marche. Many of the current departments use the ancient symbol on their coats to express this heritage. In Italy, the fleur-de-lis, called Fior-d'Alice o Aguilio, is mainly known as the crest of the city of Florence. In the Florentine fleurs-de-lis, the stamens are always posed between the petals. Originally argent on gules background, the emblem became the standard of the imperial party in Florence, causing the town government, which maintained a staunch Guelph stance, being strongly opposed to the imperial pretensions on city-states, to reverse the color pattern to the final gules lily on argent background. This heraldic charge is often known as the Florentine lily to distinguish it from the conventional design. As an emblem of the city, it is therefore found in icons of Zenobius, its first bishop, and associated with Florence's patron St. John the Baptist in the Florentine Fiorino. Several towns subjugated by Florence are founded within the territory of the Florentine Republic adopted a variation of the Florentine lily in their crests, often without the stamens. The heraldic fleur-de-lis is still widespread among the numerous cities which use it as a symbolism whose names echo the word lily. For example, Lille-Gentil, Finland, and Lelystad, Netherlands. This is called canting arms in heraldic terminology. Other European examples of municipal coats of arms bearing the fleur-de-lis include Lincoln in England, Mawson in Spain, Wiesbaden in Germany, Skierniewice in Poland and Jurbarkas in Lithuania. The Swiss municipality of Schlieren and the Estonian municipality of Joulami also have a fleur-de-lis on the coats. In Malta, the town of Santa Venera has 3 red fleurs-de-lis on its flag and coat of arms. These were derived from a gate which was part of the Windjack or aqueduct that had 3 sculpted fleurs-de-lis on top, as they were the heraldic symbols of Alof de Windjacourt, the Grand Master who financed its building. Another suburb which developed around the area became known as Fleur-de-Lis, and it also features a red fleur-de-lis on its flag and coat of arms. The coat of arms of the medieval Kingdom of Bosnia contained 6 fleurs-de-lis, understood as the native Bosnian a golden lily, Lilium bosniacum. This emblem was revived in 1992 as a national symbol of the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina and was the flag of Bosnia-Herzegovina from 1992 to 1998. The state insignia were changed in 1999 on request of two other ethnic groups. The former flag of the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina contains a fleur-de-lis alongside the Croatian chekwi. Fleurs also appear in the flags and arms of many cantons, municipalities, cities and towns. It is still used as official insignia of the Bosniak Regiment of the Armed Forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina. In the United Kingdom, a fleur-de-lis has appeared in the official arms of the Norroy King of Arms for hundreds of years. A silver fleur-de-lis on a blue background is the arms of the Barons Digby. In English and Canadian heraldry, the fleur-de-lis is the cadence mark of a sixth son. In Mauritius, slaves were branded with a fleur-de-lis when being punished for escaping or stealing food. The Welsh poet Hedwyn used fleur-de-lis as his pen name when he won his chair at the National Eisteddfod of Wales, the national poetry contest. Fleurs-de-lis appear on military insignia and the logos of many organizations. During the 20th century, the symbol was adopted by various scouting organizations worldwide for the badges. Architects and designers use it alone and as a repeated motif in a wide range of contexts, from Mayan work to bookbinding, especially where a French context is implied. The symbol is also often used on a compass rose to mark the north direction, a tradition started by Pedro Reynal. Earliest usage. The fleur-de-lis is widely thought to be a stylized version of the species Iris pseudocoris, or Iris florentina. Decorative ornaments that resemble the fleur-de-lis have appeared in artwork from the earliest human civilizations. According to Pierre-Augustin Bossier de Sauvages, an 18th-century French naturalist and lexicographer, the old fleurs-de-lis, especially the ones found in our first king's scepters, have a lot less in common with ordinary lilies than the flowers called flambers, or irises, from which the name of our own fleur-de-lis may derive. What gives some color of truth to this hypothesis that we already put forth, is the fact that the French Franks, before entering Gaul itself, lived for a long time around the river named Lys in the Flanders. Nowadays, this river is still bordered with an exceptional number of irises, as many plants grow for centuries in the same places. These irises have yellow flowers, which is not a typical feature of lilies but fleurs-de-lis. It was thus understandable that our kings, having to choose a symbolic image for what later became a coat of arms, set their minds on the iris, a flower that was common around the homes, and is also as beautiful as it was remarkable. They called it, in short, the fleur-de-lis, instead of the flower of the river of Lys. This flower, or iris, looks like our fleur-de-lis not just because of its yellow color but also because of its shape. Of the 6 petals, or leaves, that it has, 3 of them are alternatively straight and meet at the tops. The other 3 on the opposite bend down so that the middle one seems to make one with the stalk, and only the 2 ones facing out from a left and right can clearly be seen, which is again similar with our fleurs-de-lis, that is to say exclusively the one from the river Lutz, whose white petals bend down too when the flower blooms. The heraldist François Velder is of the same opinion. However, a hypothesis ventured in the 17th century sounds very plausible to me. One species of wild iris, the Iris pseudocoris, yellow flag in English, is yellow and grows in marshes. Its name in German is Lischblum, but Lisch was also spelled Lys and Lays in the Middle Ages. It is easy to imagine that, in northern France, the Lischblum would have been called fleur-de-lis. This would explain the name and the formal origin of the design, as a stylized yellow flag. There is a fanciful legend about Clovis which links the yellow flag explicitly with the French coat of arms. Sauvage's hypothesis seems to be supported by the archaic English spelling Fleur-de-lis and by the Lutz's variant name Litz. It has consistently been used as a royal emblem, though different cultures have interpreted its meaning in varying ways. Gaulish coins show the first Western designs which look similar to modern fleurs-de-lis. In the East it was found on the gold helmet of a Scythian king uncovered at the Akburan Kurgan and conserved in St. Petersburg's Hermitage Museum. There is also a statue of Kanishka the Great, the emperor of the Kushan dynasty in 127151 AD, in the Mathura Museum in India, with 4 modern fleurs-de-lis symbols in a square emblem repeated twice on the bottom end of his smaller sword. Another hypothesis is that the symbol derives from the Frankish angan. The angan, or sting, was a typical Frankish throwing spear. A possibly derived symbol of Frankish royalty was the bee, of similar shape, as found in the burial of Childeric, whose royal see of power over the Salian Franks was based over the valley of the Lys. A more obscure origin from its common Germanic cultural background could tie to the symbol of the Danish royal house too, as suggested in many ancient legends or epic folk tradition as the Eddas of Beowulf, which refer to the arrival from sea of a child king to inherit the realm, Beow, with only a sheaf of corn as emblem, as centuries later the Plantagenets would be represented. All probably derived from ancestral fertility allegories and symbols of the arrival of corn in the human form of a child, to Germanic prehistoric people before agriculture, bringing a new age of prosperity rebirth. A 9th century mosaic from San Giovanni Church in Rome shows St. Peter handing the oriflamme, the imperial banner, to Charlemagne. The finial of the oriflamme is clearly a spearhead and very like the earliest depictions of the fleur-de-lis on the seals of Robert II and Philip II. Also of note is that the red and green circles on the oriflamme are often said to depict flowers. A fleur-de-luce becomes flower of light, where light might allude to the golden flames that give the banner its name, a conflation, over time, of the lance. The flowers and the flames with the conserved spearhead used as a scepter may be more probable than the French royal symbol being derived from a river in Frisia royal symbol. Frankish to the French monarchy, the graphic evolution of Creta to fleur-de-lis was accompanied by textual allegory. By the late 13th century, an allegorical poem by Guillaume de Nangis, written at the Abbey of Joy and Chambourcy, relates how the golden lilies on an azure ground were miraculously substituted for the crescents on Clovis's shield, a projection into the past of contemporary images of heraldry. Through this propagandist connection to Clovis, the fleur-de-lis has been taken in retrospect to symbolize all the Christian Frankish kings, most notably Charlemagne. The fleur-de-lis symbolic origins with French monarchs may stem from the baptismal lily used in the crowning of King Clovis I. The French monarchy possibly adopted the fleur-de-lis for the royal coat of arms as a symbol of purity to commemorate the conversion of Clovis I, and a reminder of the fleur-de-lis ampulla that held the oil used to anoint the king. So, the fleur-de-lis stood as a symbol of the king's divinely approved right to rule. The thus anointed kings of France later maintained that their authority was directly from God. A legend enhances the mystique of royalty by informing us that a vial of oil, the holy ampulla, descended from heaven to anoint and sanctify Clovis as king, descending directly on Clovis, perhaps brought by a dove to St. Remigius. One version explains that an angel descended with the fleur-de-lis ampulla to anoint the king. Another story tells of Clovis putting a flower in his helmet just before his victory at the Battle of Vouillé. Through this connection to Clovis, the fleur-de-lis has been taken to symbolize all the Christian Frankish kings, most famously Charlemagne. In the 14th century, French writers asserted that the monarchy of France, which developed from the kingdom of the West Franks, could trace its heritage back to the divine gift of royal arms received by Clovis. This story has remained popular, even though modern scholarship has established that the fleur-de-lis was a religious symbol before it was a true heraldic symbol. Along with true lilies, it was associated with the Virgin Mary, and in the 12th century Louis VI and Louis VII started to use the emblem on scepters, for example, so connecting the rulership with this symbol of saintliness and divine right. Louis VII ordered the use of fleur-de-lis clothing in his son Philip's coronation in 1179, while the first visual evidence of clearly heraldic use dates from 1211, a seal showing the future Louis VIII and his shield strewn with the flowers. Until the late 14th century, the French royal coat of arms was azure semé-de-lis with a scattering of small golden fleurs-de-lis, but Charles V of France changed the design from an all-over scattering to a group of three in about 1376. These two coats are known in heraldry terminology as France Ancient and France Modern respectively. In the reign of King Louis IX, the three petals of the flower were said to represent faith, wisdom and chivalry, and to be a sign of divine favor bestowed on France. During the next century, the 14th, the tradition of Trinity symbolism was established in France, and then spread elsewhere. In 1328, King Edward III of England inherited a claim to the crown of France, and in about 1340 he courted France Ancient with the arms of Plantagenet as arms of pretence. After the kings of France adopted France Modern, the kings of England adopted the new design as quarterings from about 1411. The monarchs of England continued to quarter the French arms until 1801, when George III abandoned his formal claim to the French throne. King Charles VII ennobled Joan of Arc's family on the 29th of December 1429 with an inheritable symbolic denomination. The Chamber of Accounts in France registered the family's designation to nobility on the 20th of January 1430. The grant permitted the family to change their surname to de-lis. France Modern. France Modern remained the French royal standard, and with a white background was the French national flag until the French Revolution, when it was replaced by the tricolour of modern-day France. The fleur-de-lis was restored to the French flag in 1814, but replaced once again after the Revolution against Charles X of France in 1830. In a very strange turn of events after the end of the Second French Empire, where a flag apparently influenced the course of history, Henry, Comte de Chambord, was offered the throne as King of France, but he agreed only if French gave up the tricolour and brought back the white flag with fleurs-de-lis. His condition was rejected and France became a republic. Other European monarchs and rulers' fleurs-de-lis feature prominently in the crown jewels of England and Scotland. In English heraldry, they are used in many different ways, and can be the cadency mark of the sixth sun. Additionally, it features in a large amount of royal arms of the House of Plantagenet from the 13th century onwards to the early Tudors. The Treasure-Fleury counterfleury has been a prominent part of the design of the Scottish royal arms and royal standards since James I of Scotland. The the treasured fleur-de-luce he claims to wreathe his shield, since Royal James, Sir Walter Scott, The Lay of the Last Minstrel in Italy. Fleurs-de-lis have been used for some papal crowns and coats of arms, the Farnese Dukes of Parma, and by some doges of Venice. The fleur-de-lis was also the symbol of the House of Kotromanic, a ruling house in medieval Bosnia, allegedly in recognition of the Angevin, where the flower is thought of as a Lilium bosniacum. Today, fleur-de-lis is a national symbol of Bosniaks, one of three Bosnian constitutive ethnic groups, the other two being Serbians and Croatians. Other countries using the emblem heraldically include Serbia and Spain in recognition of rulers from the House of Bourbon. Coins minted in 14th century Romania, from the region that was the Principality of Moldova at the time, ruled by Petru I Musat, carry the fleur-de-lis symbol. As a dynastic emblem, it has also been very widely used, not only by noble families but also, for example, by the Fuggers, a medieval banking family. 3 fleurs-de-lis appeared in the personal coat of arms of Headmaster Elof de Winiac, who ruled the Malta between 1601 and 1622. His nephew, Adrian de Winiac, who was Grand Master himself from 1690 to 1697, also had similar coat of arms with 3 fleurs-de-lis. Other continents. Fleurs-de-lis crossed the Atlantic along with Europeans going to the New World, especially with French settlers. The presence on North American flags and coats of arms usually recalls the involvement of French settlers in the history of the town or region concerned, and in some cases the persisting presence there of a population descended from such settlers. The fleur-de-lis appears on the Canadian coat of arms, the flag of Quebec, known as the Fleur-de-lis, and also those of Montreal, Sherbrooke and Trois-Rivières. The Queen of Canada's personal flag also features it. There are many French-speaking people in other Canadian provinces for whom the fleur-de-lis remains a symbol of the cultural identity. Franco-Ontarians, for example, feature the fleur-de-lis prominently on the flag. In the U.S., the fleur-de-lis symbols tend to be along and near the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. These are areas of strong French colonial empire settlement. Some of the places that have it in the flag are sealed of the cities of St. Louis, Louisville, Detroit, Mobile, New Orleans, Baton Rouge and Lafayette. On the 9th of July 2008, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal signed a bill into law making the fleur-de-lis an official symbol of the state. Following Hurricane Katrina, the fleur-de-lis has been widely used in New Orleans and throughout Louisiana. As a symbol of grassroots support for New Orleans' recovery, it has also become the symbol for the identity of the Cajuns and Louisiana Creole people, and the French heritage. The fleur-de-lis appears on the coat of Guadeloupe, an overseas département of France in the Caribbean, Saint Barthélemy, an overseas collectivity of France and French Guiana. The overseas department of Iroquois Union in the Indian Ocean uses the same feature. It appears on the coat of Port Louis, the capital of Mauritius, which was named in honor of King Louis XV. On the coat of arms of St. Lucia, it represents the French heritage of the country. In Saskatchewan, the western red lily appears on the provincial flag and is sometimes used as a symbol of the province. Some representations resemble a fleur-de-lis, but the traditional version itself is rarely used. Coats of arms and flags. Symbolism in religion and art. In the Middle Ages, the symbols of lily and fleur-de-lis overlapped considerably in Christian religious art. Michel Pastoureau, the historian, says that until about 1300 they were found in depictions of Jesus, but gradually they took on Marian symbolism and were associated with the Song of Solomon's lily among thorns, understood as a reference to Mary. Other scripture and religious literature in which the lily symbolizes purity and chastity also helped establish the flower as an iconographic attribute of the Virgin. It was also believed that the fleur-de-lis represented the Holy Trinity. In medieval England, from the mid-12th century, a noblewoman's seal often showed the lady with a fleur-de-lis, drawing on the Marian connotations of female virtue and spirituality. Images of Mary holding the flower first appeared in the 11th century on coins issued by cathedrals dedicated to her, and next on the seals of cathedral chapters, starting with Notre Dame de Paris in 1146. A standard portrayal was of Mary carrying the flower in her right hand, just as she is shown in that church's Virgin of Paris statue, and in the center of the stained glass rose window above its main entrance. The flowers may be simple fleurons, sometimes garden lilies, sometimes genuine heraldic fleurs-de-lis. As attributes of the Madonna, they are often seen in pictures of the Annunciation, notably in those of Sandro Botticelli and Filippo Lippi. Lippi also uses both flowers in other related contexts. For instance, in his Madonna in the Forest, the three petals of the heraldic design reflect a widespread association with the Holy Trinity, with the band on the bottom symbolizing Mary. The tradition says that without Mary you cannot understand the Trinity, since it was she who bore the Son. A tradition going back to 14th century France added on to the earlier a belief that they also represented faith, wisdom and chivalry. Alternatively, the cord can be seen as representing the one divine substance of the three persons, which binds them together. Flower of light symbolism has sometimes been understood from the archaic variant fleur-de-luce, but the Oxford English Dictionary suggests this arose from the spelling, not from the etymology. Architecture. In building and architecture, the fleur-de-lis is often placed on top of iron fence posts, as a pointed defense against intruders. It may ornament any tip point opposed with a decorative flourish, for instance, on finials, the arms of the cross, or the point of a gable. The fleur-de-lis can be incorporated in friezes at cornices, although the distinctions between fleur-de-lis, fleuron, and other stylized flowers are not always clear, or can be used as a motif in an all-over tiled pattern, perhaps on a floor. It may appear in a building for heraldic reasons, as in some English churches where the design paid a compliment to a local lord who used the flower on his coat of arms. Elsewhere the effect seems purely visual, like the crenellations on the 14th century mosque madrasa of Sultan Hassan. It can also be seen on the doors of 16th century Padmanabhar Swami temple.